Back on the SportsMax Zone, the West Indian cricketers made an inauspicious start to competitive action on tour of New Zealand. The Caribbean men were made to toil in the field on day one of their three-day practice match against the New Zealand A team at the John Davis Oval in Queenstown. The home side posted 308 for 3 declared and then reduced the Windies to 17 for 1 at the close. Ricardo Chambers wraps day one.
A tough opening day for the West Indians in their first match on tour of New Zealand. New Zealand A electing to bat and powering at 3.89 per over to 308 for 3 declared. Wickets were hard to come by. The first one came with 43 runs on the board, Will Young falling to 22-year-old Shamar Holder for 27. It took another 38 overs and 160 runs for the next breakthrough, Raymond Reefer finding Henry Nicholls' edge on 76, giving Joshua Da Silva a comfortable catch. 21-year-old left-hander Rachin Ravindra struck 11 fours and 2 sixes, posting his second first-class century. He eventually made 112 from 189 deliveries before Alzari Joseph finally had reason to celebrate. New Zealand A eventually declaring after 79 overs. When the West Indies replied, Jamaican John Campbell struck his customary classy boundary. He also had his customary rash shot for his contribution. Opportunity missed maybe for a long stay at the crease. Darren Bravo also struck a boundary. He ended the day on 8 with Craig Brathwaite on 2. The West Indians 291 runs behind.
So a huge performance by the New Zealand A batsmen on day one of this match, and the West Indies bowlers and fielders toiling for a long stretch, and then before the close of play they lost John Campbell to be 17 for 1 at stumps. Tino Best, your thoughts on what happened on day one, and if from your perspective was it disappointing for the West Indies on the opening day, or are you willing to suggest that it's the opening day of a tour and preparation may not have been the best, so we've got to see with the players?
Yeah, I think you just answered the question there, Lance. Look, guys are a bit rusty coming out of quarantine as well. Just trying to find their feet as well in terms of like getting ready for this match. And guys aren't going to go as hard in a warm-up game as they will go in a test match. So I definitely, what was important for me was overs in the fast bowlers' legs. I saw Kimar got 11 overs, Azari got 13, Shamar got, I think 12, Shannon Gabriel got 12 as well. So that is what you want. You want reps. You want to get your legs up and moving. You just wonder, you don't want to get the adrenaline too high because it's a practice game, Lance. You don't want to go too hard. The only disappointing thing for me of the day's play, I don't worry about the bowlers. I always know that the West Indies bowlers are going to take themselves or lead the team, is the batting. And John Campbell failed again. I know it's the first innings of the tour, and I don't want to be too harsh on him, but bat some balls. Give yourself an opportunity. I remember Steve Waugh having a conversation with a couple of the young cricketers, me, Carlton Ball, Dave Bernard Jr., I think it was Marlon Samuels, and Omar Banks, many years ago, about 17 or 18 years ago. And he said he took his poke shot out of his repertoire and he looked to bat balls and spend time. When you score 100, the most shots that you play is forward defensive. If John Campbell could buy into a situation like that or a mindset like that, I think he's going to flourish on this tour. And the thing about New Zealand is a very difficult place to play cricket as well. The surfaces aren't fast, they're very flat, but they get sideways movement. So you've got to play the ball real late. And you can't play hard wicket shots. In coaching, we always talk about playing hard wicket shots on feather beds. You've got to take your time and you've got to bat some balls. Do like what Craig Brathwaite does, bat some balls.
All right. The bowling figures, we just looked at them. Can we just have another look at those bowling figures? Because the pace men bowled 10, 11, 12 overs and so on. A lot of overs bowled by Rakeem Cornwall. He was the busiest of the bowlers today. And as an off-spinner, I guess on a day like today when the batting team scored 308 for 3 declared, you would expect the spinners to be quite busy. Your take on the fact that Rakeem bowled nearly twice as many overs as anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, Lance, as I tell you, at the end of the day, it's a practice game, and the slow bowlers always got to take the brunt. I always remember starting off tour matches. We know we don't want burn the fast bowlers out. We just want them to bowl maybe between 10 to 15 overs. And we know the spinner already know that they're going to bowl overs. I was surprised that Ross and Chase didn't bowl a lot more. But if you're looking at that final 11, I think that you're going to go in with the only bowler in terms of being a spinner will be Ross and Chase. And just try to pack that bowling with fast bowlers and seamers, because Raymond Reefer comes into play. You've got to play Raymond Reefer, because if it's one thing about New Zealand's tracks, the pitches aren't dry, and you go and will be able to play two spinners. The pitches will be full of grass and seaming about, but not with a lot of pace. So a guy like Raymond Reefer has to get in that final 11. So I mean, the way how it goes, I mean, a guy like Rakeem Cornwall got to bowl a lot of overs in the practice game. Yeah. But the thing about it that Rakeem should have done is maybe get 4 or 5 and put some pressure on the selection, but he didn't get any wickets. Yeah, so if you're looking at that final 11, I think he might be the one that misses out, unfortunately.
Yeah, as you talk about Rakeem Cornwall coming off the last test assignment, Tino, there was a lot of discussion about Rakeem Cornwall's bowling ability and matching him up against Roston Chase. Who do you think is a better off spinner? Because I think, over the years, people consider Rakeem Cornwall a very solid off spinner, but based on Roston Chase's numbers, statistically, you could argue that Roston has done better than Rakeem has in the opportunities that they both have got at the test level.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, numbers, men like, women like, but numbers don't. And not Rakeem, but Roston Chase have proven that he's our best off spinner. Yes. He got 5 tests. I think he got 4 or 5 fivers already. I'm not sure, stand to be corrected. But if you're going in in a place like New Zealand, the surface aren't going to be brown and dusty at all. New Zealand is one of the coolest places after England when it comes to surfaces, the pitch, and it's going to got a lot of grass. I think I've toured New Zealand twice. I've never seen a brown pitch, brother. All the pitches is all. Yeah. Some days I rock up at a place like Wellington, and I ask the groundsman, where's the pitch? He said, right here in the middle. I said, what? but the pitch is not quick. It just goes through normally. It isn't a place that you can just come and blast people out. Yeah. You've got to be very disciplined. So I think when it comes to that spinner duties, Roston Chase is the guy that you were going with, and not Rakeem. So as I said, the only way Rakeem was going to get into that final 11 or put some pressure on the selectors on tour is to get 4 wickets today.
Yeah. Multiple wickets today. All right, well, you touched on it.
Get wickets.
Yeah, you touched on it earlier, Tino. Leighton, I think you have a problem with the West Indies batting for years, and the fact that the Windies weren't able to go into the close of play without losing a wicket, and John Campbell out with a rash-looking shot, Leighton.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that we've seen time and time again. Phil Simmons spoke about game awareness. We're going into the final 8 overs of the day. The plan obviously had to be stay there until tomorrow and then bat as long as you can, because you need they've been in quarantine for a while. They need to bat as long as possible. So that shot from John Campbell to me was kind of rash, and it spoke to what Phil Simmons had mentioned in an interview a few days ago. The understanding of where you are in the game and not give away your wickets needlessly. And we see that again. Clearly, the learning process is not happening as quickly as it should, Tino.
All right, and Tino, your expectations as we wrap the segment about what happens on day 2, because you just suggested that from a bowling perspective, the bowlers, having a more physical exertion than the batsmen. You kind of expected the bowlers to be just playing in, but the batsmen, that's a horse of a different color. Would you expect these batsmen? They're playing 14 players per team, but obviously only 11 will bat and 11 will field. What would you want to see for the West Indies in this batting reply?
Yeah, just bat out the rest of the day tomorrow. Darren Bravo to get some runs under his belt. Just for the whole batting team to get some runs. that whole batting unit, the Shamar Brooks, the Shane Dorridges, and so forth. What I would have done, I think, I tell you what, I would not start John Campbell in the first test. I know it's only 2 test matches. I would give Shane Mosley these 2 test matches. That's my honest belief. I think that Shane Mosley has come on tremendous in the last 2 seasons. He's had 2 really good seasons. He went to the bubble in England, so the coaches can see him doing work, and he can see him doing a lot of batting and stuff. I would play Shane Mosley in these 2 test matches. I think that just like Raheem Cornwall's situation with John Campbell, this was a test. And unless the West Indies get another opportunity to bat, which is, I don't think they're going to get it, I don't think John Campbell is going to start the first test. I would not be surprised, Lance and Levy, if they start young Shane Mosley in the first test. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, well, we wait to see what happens there. The second day coming up, Caribbean time in the evening, the West Indies will continue from their 17-4-1, replying to the massive total put on by the New Zealand A team. We go to break. A lot more to come on the SportsMax Zone, including football, EPL and La Liga, and also horse racing. Back in a moment.